Learn English with Yourinstill.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, I've got something really exciting to share with you. In the last 2 years, I've learned 8 new languages. Yes, you heard that right, 8. Now, I know what you're thinking. How on earth did you do that? I love learning foreign languages. In fact, I love it so much that I like to learn a new language every 2 years. Currently, I am working on my 8th one. When people find that out about me, they always ask me, how do you do that? What's your secret? And to be honest, for many years my answer would be, I don't know. I simply love learning languages. But people were never happy with that answer. They wanted to know why they are spending years trying to learn even one language, never achieving fluency. And here I come, learning one language after another. Well, in this video, I'm going to take you through exactly how I managed to learn so many languages in such a short time, and how you can do it too. I'll break it down into simple steps, tips, and tricks that worked for me, and explain everything in a way that's easy to follow. Whether you're just starting out or you're already learning a language, this video will give you the motivation and tools to keep going and make progress faster than you ever thought possible. Plus, I'll be sharing a little secret about how I'm already working on my 8th language. Yes, I'm learning a new one right now. So grab a pen and paper, because you're going to want to take notes. Before we start, don't forget to subscribe to Yourinstill if you haven't already. This way you won't miss any of our lessons that will help you on your journey to speak fluent English. Now let's get into today's lesson. Learning a new language can seem like a huge challenge, but over the past 2 years, I have learned 8 different languages. Yes, you read that correctly. 8 languages? At first, I thought it would be impossible, but with the right mindset, the right tools, and a lot of practice, it became much easier than I expected. Let me share with you how I did it and what I learned along the way. It all started with a simple desire to communicate with people from different parts of the world. I had always been fascinated by different cultures, and I realized that the best way to connect with them was through language. I didn't want to just speak a few words or phrases. I wanted to understand the language deeply, to be able to hold conversations, read books, and watch movies without needing translations. So, I set myself a goal, to learn as many languages as possible within 2 years. The first step was to pick my first language. I decided to start with Spanish. It's one of the most widely spoken languages in the world, and I had heard that it's also easier to learn for English speakers. I began by learning the basics, greetings, common phrases, and some important vocabulary. At the same time, I used language apps and online platforms that offered interactive lessons. These apps were very helpful because they made learning fun and kept me motivated. I practiced a little bit every day, even if it was just for 10 minutes. At first, it was difficult. The words felt unfamiliar, and it was hard to remember everything. But I didn't give up. I made a habit of listening to Spanish songs, watching Spanish TV shows with subtitles, and trying to speak to anyone who could understand me. I also practiced writing in Spanish, which helped me remember the vocabulary better. Slowly but surely, I started to understand the language more, and I became more confident in my speaking abilities. After about 6 months of consistent practice, I felt comfortable enough to have basic conversations in Spanish. By this point, I realized that learning languages wasn't as hard as I had imagined. The key was consistency and finding fun ways to practice. So, I moved on to my second language, French. I had always loved the sound of French, and it felt like a natural next step. French has a lot of similarities to Spanish, which made it easier for me to learn. I started by learning the basic phrases, just like I had done with Spanish, and soon I was able to understand simple French sentences. I also watched French films, read French books, and listened to French podcasts. The more I exposed myself to the language, the quicker I learned. After French, I took on Italian. I had noticed that many of the languages I had learned so far were part of the same language family, called the Romance languages, so they shared a lot of similar words and grammar rules. This made it easier for me to pick up Italian. I learned the basic vocabulary and grammar, and once again, I practiced by listening to Italian songs and watching Italian movies. By now, I had gotten used to learning new languages and felt much more comfortable with the process. I was learning languages faster and with more confidence than ever before. Once I had a good grip on the Romance languages, I decided to challenge myself with a completely different language, German. German is a Germanic language, and it has a very different structure from the Romance languages. At first, it felt overwhelming because the word order was unfamiliar, and the vocabulary seemed completely different. But I kept at it. I used language apps, online courses, and found German-speaking friends to practice with. I made mistakes, but I didn't mind. The more mistakes I made, the more I learned. After about 6 months, I could understand a lot of basic German, and my speaking skills improved as well. Next, I decided to learn a non-European language, Japanese. Japanese was one of the hardest languages I had learned so far because it has a completely different writing system, with characters like kanji, hiragana, and katakana. However, I found that learning the characters was like solving a puzzle. It took time, but with regular practice, I was able to recognize the characters and learn how to write them. I also spent a lot of time listening to Japanese, watching anime with subtitles, and practicing speaking with native speakers online. Slowly but surely, I began to understand the structure of the language and could hold basic conversations in Japanese. After Japanese, I moved on to Korean. Korean was another challenge because, although the alphabet, called Hangul, is easier to learn than the writing systems of languages like Japanese or Chinese, the grammar structure was quite different from anything I had learned before. But I didn't give up. I kept learning new vocabulary, studying Korean grammar rules, and practicing with native speakers. I found that listening to Korean songs and watching Korean dramas really helped me understand the language better. By now, I had already learned 6 languages in a little over a year, and I felt ready to take on more. I decided to learn Russian next. Russian was a major challenge because it uses the Cyrillic alphabet and the grammar is very complex. However, I used the same strategy that worked for me in the past. I practiced every day, even if it was just for a few minutes. I also listened to Russian podcasts, watched Russian TV shows, and connected with Russian speakers to practice conversation. After several months, I was able to read and understand basic Russian, and my speaking skills improved. Finally, I reached my 8th language, Arabic. Arabic is one of the hardest languages for English speakers to learn because it has a completely different alphabet and unique grammar rules. I started with the basics, learning the alphabet, pronunciation, and common phrases. I practiced reading and writing in Arabic, and I also tried to speak with native speakers whenever I could. Arabic is very different from the languages I had learned before, but by now, I had developed a good system for learning languages, and I felt confident that I could learn it too. So, what's the secret to learning so many languages in just 2 years? It's all about consistency and finding ways to make learning fun. I never studied for hours at a time. Instead, I practiced every day, even if it was just for a few minutes. I used language apps, watched movies, listened to music, and spoke with native speakers whenever I could. I didn't focus on perfection. I focused on progress. Mistakes were part of the learning process, and I never let them discourage me. The key was to keep going, to keep practicing, and to stay curious about the world around me. Now, 2 years later, I can speak 8 languages, and I'm still learning. It's not just about being able to speak different languages. It's about connecting with people, understanding their cultures, and expanding my world. Learning languages has opened up so many doors for me, and I wouldn't trade the experience for anything. If I can learn 8 languages in 2 years, I believe anyone can do it with the right attitude and a little bit of effort. So, that's it. That's how I managed to learn 8 languages in just 2 years. It wasn't easy, and there were definitely moments when I felt like giving up, but I kept pushing, and now I'm here, speaking all these amazing languages. Remember, learning a new language isn't about being perfect. It's about staying consistent, having fun with it, and using the right strategies to make progress every day. Whether you're learning for travel, work, or just for fun, you can do it too. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more tips and tricks on language learning, motivation, and my journey with languages. And hey, if you have any questions or want to share your own language learning experiences, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and remember, it's never too late to start learning something new. See you in the next video.